as a parent, you change your child's diaper, and now you're changing your parent's diaper or having to clean your loved one.
And let's think about that for a second. Think about the emotions that they go through. Think about the self-dignity, that they have to endure to have your child now having to change you and clean you as if you were a child.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Motivator Live with me, your host, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. We have in our studio today Rose, who is a registered nurse, and we are going to be talking about what happens when the child becomes the caregiver. Hi, Rose.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So why don't you tell our listening, viewing audience about your background? I mentioned you were a nurse, right? But it's deeper than that. So tell them about your background, because you've been a nurse for about 30 years, right?
About 25, 6-ish, yeah.
Okay, so tell us about your nursing career.
So I started my nursing career in 1997. I went to a community college first, and then I started working. And while I was on the job, I was blessed to have a job that paid for, had tuition reimbursement for education.
That's an old concept, huh?
Yes, and the concept is so old that they paid up front, so it wasn't like I had to pay out of pocket and then be reimbursed. So that was wonderful. And so I got my bachelor's and my master's from that particular employer.
All covered?
All covered.
Wow, that definitely is a blessing, because your girl has thousands and thousands of dollars in student loan money. So to have it all covered, that was definitely a blessing.
And I will say I was in the last class where they changed their policy, where it was, I think, 80% covered instead of the 100%. So I was blessed to get in on that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So after you finish your nursing program, what type of settings have you worked in?
Oh my. Well, just about all of them. Mother baby, which is postpartum. Nursery, which is newborn. I didn't do L&D.
And for those who are like, what's L&D?
Labor and delivery.
Okay.
I didn't do labor and delivery. But mother, baby, postpartum, nursery, med-surg, critical care. I didn't do ER. I did do ortho and telemetry and pediatrics.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you may or may not know this. Well, you probably know I started in healthcare as a medical assistant in 92. And I actually worked in the emergency department. And I think a combination of working in the emergency department, working on the floor at University of Chicago, I realized I did not want to be a nurse.
Oh.
Yeah, you know what? I realized.
But there's so many other departments you could have worked in. Emergency room is not for everyone. It wasn't for me.
It was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough as a young lady, a young mother, working in the emergency department, seeing all of the critical patients coming in, having to bag a patient when they, were deceased.
Yeah.
I remember one time, you're going to laugh at this, but I needed to draw some labs. And so here is me, all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I drew the labs. Electrolytes came back high.
Okay.
Young physician, nice guy, was like, "Hey, Lisa, where did you draw that blood from?" I'm like, "Right over here." He was like, "See, they got this."
Did he IV? I'll get ready to say.
Yes, the IV was in, but I was thankful for that teachable moment because it helped me understand why the electrolytes were all out of whack and all of that. But I realized, even though I come from a family of nurses, I realized that I did not want to be a nurse, and part of that I think was having a special needs child. I realized that at the end of the day, I only wanted to be concerned about her healthcare needs. But in the capacities that I've operated in healthcare, in the background, have served me well. Because honestly, there are some folks that are nurses that don't need to be a nurse.
That's true too. That is true too. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yes, absolutely. So today we're talking about when the child becomes the caregiver. And I know from a personal perspective, my parents are in their 70s. As of December 2023, my grandfather is 103.
All right.
And there's a shift that takes place as you get older, your parents get older, and there's this transition from a care perspective. Now, don't get it twisted. My mother tells me all the time, you can be 50 years old,
That's
60 years old, and I'm still going to be mama.
I'm still going to be mama.
Yes. But their needs change from a variety of capacities. So I know that you have a company that specializes in this service. So tell us a little bit about your company, who you are and who you serve.
Sure. We have a home care agency, non-medical. Me and my partner, Latoya Daniels, also my sorority sister, also my friend. We started this company probably in 2018. It came out of my seeing my mom take on the caregiver role for my dad, and for her seeing her father-in-law take on the caregiver role for his wife. And so we decided at that point that these people needed help. These caregivers needed help, and we call it respite. That way, respite is when someone gives you the opportunity to take care of you. They come in, they take over those duties that you are doing as a caregiver, so that you can go and take care of yourself. Do those things that revitalize you, rejuvenate you, so that you have the energy and strength to come in and continue being a caregiver. So
that's, you know what, I remember with my daughter Jasmine, who has special needs, utilizing respite services. So like you mentioned this, your service is non-medical, so it's really giving you those hours that you need for some self-care.
Yes.
I always talk about clinician burnout, but caregiver burnout is real. And it can be so overwhelming that some people just tap out. They can no longer handle being the caregiver because it's overwhelming. As a parent, you change your child's diaper, right? But then when the roles reverse and now you're changing your parent's diaper or having to clean your loved one.
And let's think about that for a second. Think about the loved one, the parent, okay? Think about the emotions that they go through. Think about the self-dignity, that they have to endure to have their child. I get emotional when I talk about this.
Listen, you're going to make me emotional.
because I watched it with my dad. To have your child now having to change you and clean you as if you were a child. It can be devastating, and it can throw somebody into a depression. So it's a lot of emotions that go on with this this caregiver role for the caregiver and for the one you're caring for.
You know what? When you mentioned the emotional side of the parent, I guess I thought about it but didn't think about it. I think back to when my father had a stroke, and probably the second stroke. The first one, he probably just kept on moving and didn't tell anybody. But that second stroke, where it was documented on the MRI, he was admitted to the hospital. He was at a place where he had been at his job for 45 years, now not able to work, now having the stroke, now his oldest daughter, me, taking him back and forth to therapy visits, and here is me. All right, Dada, we got to do this, and this.
Oh, no.
And I did not think about, well, listen, if everybody knows me, I'm about business.
Right.
We got to go to the podiatrist, we got to go to the internal medicine doctor. Okay, you got lymphedema, you got to get therapy, you got diabetes, we got to do this, we got to do that. Are you taking your medication? You had 45 in there, now you got, what's going on? But I did not really stop and think about how he was feeling. Now, I will tell you, there is a huge difference in how I communicate with him versus how I communicate with my mother. Huge difference, because there's a difference in men versus women. And to some extent, that scares me about what's going to happen when my husband and I get older and we have to navigate healthcare and caring for each other, because men are different than women, as they should be, right?
Sure.
So Do you have experience in that area?
I do, and I'm glad you brought up some things that I wanted to touch on. The majority of caregivers in the U.S. are women. They are the oldest sibling, which you just said you were. They're working full time or part time. That's just some little statistics. So, bringing up your father, 45 years on the job, breadwinner, income has been taken away. Okay. This is a whole dynamic. This whole caregiver thing is a whole dynamic. So, you may or may not have siblings. The female caregiver, she may or may not have siblings, but if she does have siblings in this dynamic, and I was talking about emotions as well, there are times when there may be some resentment toward the other siblings who do not take the same role as this older sibling in caring for the parents. Huge dynamic. So I'm glad you brought those points up because they're real. Also, you say your father, you're telling your father to do this and he needs to do this and this. So this older sibling, female woman who is working and may have children of her own that she has to take care of, is now, like you just said, managing the medications, putting those pills in the box. 3 pills for Monday, 2 for Wednesday, putting the pills in the box, setting up appointments. All right, conversating with physicians.
Being the historian.
So when we think about, and a lot of people don't even see themselves as caregivers, especially if the parent is still up and about doing things. But you're still making those appointments. You're still helping with the checkbook, paying the bills on the phone with who could you be on the phone with? On the phone with somebody maybe to come take a look at the house. Maybe it needs tuck point. Okay, so you're still on the phone with these people. That makes you the primary caregiver, believe it or not. And a lot of people don't categorize themselves as a caregiver because the elder or the parent is not like bedbound or wheelchair bound. But if you're going grocery shopping, you're managing those medications, you're calling those physicians and making those appointments, guess what?
You're a caregiver.
You're a caregiver.
Well, you know what? I can tell you from my own personal experience, one of the things that I think is critical, every individual must have a personal health record, whether it's electronic or paper, because when this whole stroke thing, happened, I went old school because, my background is health information management. So yes. I went old school and had a paper-based medical record by specialty. So when the specialist came in the room during that stroke episode, I was taking notes, asking questions. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, if you present yourself as an informed consumer, you're going to get better healthcare needs. You're going to be more involved in your own care, your family members' care. And, you and I talked about before about having those critical conversations around the dinner table at holidays, right? Because a lot of people don't know their own history. And not knowing could be life or death because your physician is making decisions based on how you're presenting, but not understanding, you got a whole history of hyperlipidemia and hypertension and type 2 diabetes, which can impact how they send you for testing.
Yep. And it didn't just start with mom.
Yes.
It didn't just start with mom. This could be going on down the line. This could be a generational thing. You know what I'm saying? So, like you said, this past Thanksgiving, I hope, because last time we spoke, we said at the next dinner, this would be the Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming up, have those conversations,
Well, you know what? I think we get so caught up in the food, football, and family that we miss that opportunity to ask those questions. I was diagnosed with lymphedema, and luckily I knew that I had a family history on both sides. So when you have that family history on both sides, it's not necessarily if you get those conditions, it's when. You could do all the things to try to prevent them, but some things are in your bloodlines and you're going to get them. I was fighting the statin. Let me just tell you, I was like, I am not going to be on the statin. Mm-hmm. Guess what I found out? On both sides of my family, hyperlipidemia is prevalent on both sides. Mm-hmm. So other than dying, there was no way I was going to avoid it. But as an informed consumer, I know about the things that I'm supposed to be doing to keep my levels low. Right. Such as taking that statin every day, which I don't want to take that statin every day, but I realize I got to take it. Yeah. Eating the proper foods. But look, let
me tell you what my doctor told me. He said, I'm going to help you out because I know you're not going to eat the way you're supposed to eat to get the cholesterol down. So let me help you out. I'm going to put you on a statin. And he did. He put me on a low dose statin. So, we want to live. We
definitely want to live.
We got to do what we got to do.
Absolutely. So let's dive in a little bit deeper to the caregiver, the respite services. Talk to us about some of the success stories because I think, so first of all, some people don't think they need help. And I know in my own family, sometimes the family member doesn't want anyone in their house. Right, in fact, including you as the family member. But they are in need. They are ashamed that they're in a position of needing those emotions. Support.
Yeah. Not only that, control. They're losing control. Why don't seniors want to go to a nursing home?
Well,
they would get the care.
I personally feel like I'm not going to get quality care. I'm going to be left alone. I mean, I got a whole thing about nursing home.
But you're going to lose control.
Yes,
that's what it is. You're going to lose your freedom and your control because when you're in a nursing home, what are the odds that you get to go down to the kitchen 3:00 in the morning, get you something to eat, come back up to your room? It doesn't happen. So that's one of the main reasons why elders don't want that help or don't want to ask for that help because they feel like they'll be losing control. And I have to apologize for my voice. Well, I don't have to apologize, but I feel like I owe you an explanation for my voice. So I had COVID in 2021, and it left some scarring on my lungs. So when I speak, my voice isn't as strong as it used to be.
But guess what? You still have a voice.
Exactly. We still have a voice. I still exercise my voice, but sometimes you'll hear in the conversation where it's a little weak or wavery. So I just wanted to.
But you don't have to apologize for that. Well, I'll tell you why. Being the parent of a 32-year-old daughter who has never said a word, you still have your voice. And your voice is powerful, whether it's high or if it's low. So don't apologize for your voice because you still have your voice.
Yes, I do. And I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. But back to your interview.
Yes. So we talked about caregiver depression. We talked about the individual loved one that's getting older and them being depressed. So tell us a little bit more.
Not just the loved one. The caregiver goes through stages of depression as well.
Do you think they don't recognize that depression?
They don't. They don't because depression has a lot of different symptoms. And some of those symptoms are more physical. Even though depression is mental, right? But the symptoms are physical. So there could be pain, right?
Eating a bunch of stuff.
There could be fatigue.
There
could be,
eating, drinking,
binge eating, things like that. Yeah, you can fall into that trap as well. So you don't recognize it as depression, right? You don't recognize it as depression, but yeah, depression comes in different manifestations. So, and it comes on both sides, on the caregiver side and the elder side, and we have to allow people to, because they're entitled to their feelings, to their emotions, and we have to and another emotion that we really don't talk about is grief and mourning, because the adult child will start to grieve or mourn the loss of the parent that used to be, right? So the parent that was once, 45 years going to work. Now they had the stroke, and they're not as vibrant as they used to be. And I remember when my father had cancer, and he had to get a tracheotomy. So when they was getting ready to put that trach in, I knew I would never hear his voice again, his laughter again, and I mourned that I was mourning it while we were in the hospital waiting room while they were doing the surgery. But that's just some of the emotions that go along with caring for your parent. Wow. Or even an older person or anybody that's losing something, and you know that you're never going to have that again. So there's a grief process that goes along with that as well.
I often, as my parents age, and this could sound morbid, but I often think about the day when my mom isn't here, because I call her every day.
Yeah.
Right? So life after that, you do start to think about it.
Yes, and the older we get, the more real it becomes. When I was in my 20s, I never thought about my mother not being here. When I was in my 30s, I never thought about it. But now I'm nearing in my 60s, and I'm like, how much time we got left?
Well, you know what?
Because I'm thinking of my mortality too.
Yes. But I also hope that whoever is watching or listening to this realizes that tomorrow's not promised. They definitely have to have patience with dealing with their loved ones.
Yes.
I think that what you don't want to do is to show that family member that you're frustrated, because then that causes them to pull back and not ask you for help. And it could be that time when they need the help the most that they don't ask you for because they feel like you're going to be frustrated.
A burden. Yeah. So recognize too what pushes your buttons. Because I moved in with my mom recently. She still gets around. She got a little arthritis in the knees or whatever. Her hearing is going. But she's still pretty much independent. But I just didn't like her being alone. So I moved in with her recently. And we haven't killed each other yet. So everything is going okay so far. But I realized that she pushes certain buttons. There's certain buttons she can push, and she doesn't know she's pushing them, I don't think. Well, I'm not a poker player, so she may know.
She may know. Wait a minute. What month were we both born in?
April.
So let's go ahead and tell the truth. So
she knows the buttons. Yeah, she may know now, but when I initially moved in, she was being mom. I would get ready to go out, and she would tell me, don't forget you think you need a jacket. I'm like, do you know I am almost 60? I know if I need a jacket. So she doesn't do that anymore. But I forgot what I was getting ready to say.
But you know what? She's showing you.
Yes, that she's still mom.
She's still mom.
Yes, and I'm still her daughter. I'm still her baby. That's exactly where I was going with that. So, but you have to recognize those triggers and then deal with them. Don't let them become bigger than what they are. Because sometimes I have to have a conversation with myself. I was like, Rose, she's your mom, and she's going to be your mom, and she's looking out the window. When I walk to the car, I look back, I can see her. I'm like,
but it gives her something to do.
It does. I feel like I'm being treated like a child. You know?
And you know what? You said something earlier about how they're feeling, and her watching you is giving her something to do.
And that's what mothers do. They watch over their children. So I can't take that from her. I can't say, well, you stop looking out the window. So again, just know the triggers, just know the buttons that can be pushed, and find a way to de-stress yourself so you don't get stressed out over it.
Yes. So listen, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the services that you and our soror, Latoya, provide, because I am sure, it's 2024. So as we all get older, our parents are getting older, and I am pretty sure that there are some families that need your services. And I think first they need to be informed about why they need the services and how it's a normal part of aging. But tell us more about your company, because there are some individuals who are interviewing you right now to see if you are the source that they need for their loved one.
Well, the name of our company is Moments at Home, Respite Care and Home Services. And like I said, we do offer non-medical services. That means we don't take blood pressures, we don't administer medications, things like that. But what we do provide is companionship, right? Because sometimes your loved one just needs somebody to sit and talk with, right? Because that will alleviate some of the isolation and some of the loneliness that they may be going through because you have to work. Also, we provide help with assistance with grooming. Like if they need, if they need to, hygiene, baths, uh, dressing, getting them dressed in the morning,
or getting them dressed. Of daily living.
We call them activities of daily living,
right?
Grooming and toileting, taking them to the bathroom or changing them, whichever is the situation. But that's just types of services that we offer. We do a little light housekeeping, little chores around the house, sweeping, mopping up, counters, cleaning out that refrigerator, because like you said, a lot of people don't. When you have an older parent, especially if they live alone, and you going by to check on them to see what's going on, you have to look into that refrigerator. And if you start seeing old food, moldy food, it may be time to get somebody in there. It may be even once a week, you know. But then, you can always go on our website, www.momentsathome.org. I got a bunch of blogs on there which you can read about warning signs. We also have a booklet that you can download. It's like a guide on how to know when you need these types of services. But yeah, we offer respite care. We offer packages. We have an express package, which we call Get Up and Go. So we can get your loved one up, dressed, ready for breakfast, sitting at the table. Only thing you got to do is bring it.
So I know that you have a lot of resources on your website. Tell our listening and viewing audience the resources you have available.
Well, we have a bunch of blogs on the website with a bunch of good information. I'm not a member of this organization, but there's an organization called Parenting Our Parents, POP. And it's an online community. So I came across it not too long ago, and I was like, oh, this should be interesting, to be with other people, because you're not alone. Caregivers, it is a community, and your experiences you can share with other people who have had similar experiences. You can also get a grip on your emotions and understand the different emotions that you may be going through, that you don't quite understand why you're going through them right now. So I would highly recommend getting with a community, a support group, so that because self-care is very important in this business. Self-care is, like you said, caregiver burnout is real. So getting with the support group and getting some respite care. If it's not my company, maybe it's a relative, a friend, somebody who can come by and relieve you for a few hours so you can do you, right?
Oh, you know what? And I think back during the pandemic, we brought Jasmine home, and my husband and I looked up, and it was 6 months later that we had her at home. And let me tell you what was funny about this. Jasmine has never had a regular sleep schedule. So at night, she'd be up. Now, she doesn't talk.
Okay.
She can hear a little bit. But she was up all night. And then in the morning, when we were getting up, she was still up because she wanted her oatmeal.
Oh, okay.
And then we'd be on a conference call. We look over. She laid out on the couch sleeping.
I imagine so.
But the point of that I wanted to bring up was my husband and I just did what we needed to do for her during that pandemic. Like when the world was shutting down, there was no question. I was like, hubby, we got to go get Jasmine.
Right.
I'm like, if the world going to end, it's going to end with her at home with us.
Right.
But 6 months later, we made it through that process without even thinking through it, we were exhausted when she left. Matter of fact, when we dropped her off, we were like, bye, Jill. She didn't even look back. Because I said, she probably was tired.
Happy to go.
Yeah, because listen, she be going to sleep during the day. We try to put her in the shower, get her to wake up. Right? She don't drink coffee, right? But we were trying to figure out how do we get her to align with our schedule. There was no alignment. Because she was on her own thing.
Right.
But we made it through. But I also think it was two of us, right, in that process. So we kind of bounced off of each other.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, your turn to get the oatmeal.
Right.
So taking care of each other, taking care of self, I think is so important. And the baby boomers are getting older. They're retiring. They need support. So I believe that your services are going to be in high demand because as this younger generation comes up, they want their self-care time. They want their time to themselves.
Like 80 million baby boomers. Okay. And the oldest one is 77. The oldest one is 77, 1946. Okay. That's my mom was born 46. And the youngest baby boomer is 58. That's a lot of people.
A lot of people.
That have to transition from the 50s to the... And we're living longer.
We are. My grandfather...
We're living longer.
Listen, so December 2023, my grandfather, 103.
103. Bless his soul. I have an uncle who's having a birthday party December 10th. He's turning 102.
Wow.
So, and that's the centenarians. That's a whole nother different story. But, and then you talk about... We're getting off topic, but you talk about finances as well.
Oh,
right?
Finances is a part of this.
Your finances, you save for retirement. You figure you'd probably be checking out around 80, right?
But here,
and then you got 20 years later. Is that money there? You know what I'm saying? And then it's just a wonderful life.
It is.
It is.
Well, Rose, our time is up today. I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Your website is scrolling across the screen right now, so individuals will be able to reach out and check you out. I am sure that they have seen that you definitely would provide care for their loved one, because I think that's a concern. Is that person going to, that company going to have a workforce that cares for my loved one just like I would?
Right. And we pride ourselves on finding you that match, that perfect match. We don't send anybody to your house unless we thoroughly check them out and we know that there's going to be a match, right? So for Jasmine, who likes to stay up all night, I can't send you a caregiver who sleeps during it. I can send you somebody, right? I got to send you somebody that's going to be up with Jasmine. So, we take pride in making sure we match you with the right caregiver.
I love it. Well, everyone, this has been another episode of the Growth Motivator Live with me, your host, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. Until next time.